I'm sorry.
That's Booby.
And Kopi and Chip and Ghosty.
I don't even know why Kopi's there anymore. We gotta retire him. He's dead. He's
I know.
dead, unfortunately.
Yep. That other thing's unplugged, so Salty's not even lit up.
So we have the ability to promote bands. Now, when we say promote, what we mean is get them exposure. We've done a couple reviews, and sometimes we like the song, and sometimes we don't. Bangin' in the Lord's Backyard. Again, if you want to find out how to get your song reviewed, email us, vinandsori@gmail.com. Let's do it.
Go.
They're getting up and saying that it was all right for two women to marry or two men to marry. I tell you right now, I was disappointed bad, but I tell you right there, as sorry as you can get, the Bible's against it, God's against it, I'm against it, and if you've got any sense, you're against it.
Fuck that! Let's go out back! Wow! Going down Noodle Beach. See my old man, I don't wanna hear him preach. He's got his booze and bitches, and that's all fine. But he's getting his, well, I'll be getting mine. My boys on the block, riding out bikes all day.
apricot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, pound that ass. Come on.
I was trying to find that preacher that they were quoting at the beginning. I remember that guy.
He sounded familiar to me.
I remember that guy. He was like, "I'm again it." He's talking about gay marriage.
Yeah.
I'm again it. You're God again it. And if you had sense, you'd be again it.
If you had sense, you'd be.
Well, it went viral because he was prototypical of
Oh yeah.
you know, like again it. I'm again it. Wow. This is a big F you to his dad apparently.
Yep.
You know, like.
Yep. First of all, I will say their sound quality was way better on this.
This is way better. I'm also very grateful that they didn't make a music video for this one. Thank you.
Oh goodness gracious. Lord help them. Okay.
Yeah, the sound. This
sound quality was
sounded
really good.
like an actual single. It was way better.
It really did. And you know what? His voice is very good.
Yeah, he's a good singer. This guy.
Yeah, he is.
Watch all. Yeah, this is one of those. Yeah. This is one of those things where it's like, as a Christian, look. I think that you have to. On this issue, like, you've got to find ways to meet in the middle, because I think both sides a lot of times are very, very hypocritical. Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, you have Christians who, when it's their own things that the Bible's against, and we go over this in the Bible Boogie, where it says lending at interest, taking advantage of financially vulnerable people is an abomination. It literally says that.
Yeah.
It says that gossiping against your brother are things that God hates.
Yep.
So Christians will be like, well, greed is completely fine. Like, you know, when the scripture says, you know, it lists off, you know, drunkards, homosexuals, are greedy,
Yep.
won't inherit the kingdom of God. They go, see?
Yep.
The guys won't inherit the kingdom. But then it's like, well, it also said the greedy.
Right.
Hello?
Mm-hmm. And he kind of captured that right here. So he says, going down to New Dorp Beach, seeing my old man, I don't want to hear him preach. Then he said, he's got his booze and bitches, and that's all fine. But
Well,
while he's getting his, I'll be getting mine.
Right, right.
He's like, you're a hypocrite. You're
Right.
you know, you're coming after me for whatever, but you've got your own issues.
Right, and again, it's 1 Timothy, it talks about, you know, like, the laws for the lawless, the ones who strike their father and mother, for homosexual offenders, for slave traders, and it's like, see, it says homosexual offenders. Meanwhile, Jonathan Edwards had a slave his entire life. Nobody questions whether or not he's in heaven.
Right.
But your gay Frey, that guy, the gay dude, he's going straight to hell. Jonathan Edwards, who owned a slave, preached sermons against people who were trying to free slaves. But your gay friends, forget it. Nobody's getting a pass. So, you know, it's hypocritical. The way, especially the way that right-wing Christians are.
Oh,
when it
yeah,
comes
absolutely.
to dealing with the LGBT community is absolutely hypocritical. On the other hand, the big primer with a lot of our LGBT friends, which I agree with, is, look, I have to be who I am, and I can't compromise who I am, and I'm not going to go in the closet about who I am, and you should accept me for who I am. Well, if that's the case, then you should accept people who say, I love you, but this is what I believe the Bible says, so I can't say that it's all good.
Yeah.
I can't say that because it's the Bible. Will you still accept me as a friend? You know, and it's like, no, I'm going to go and target you. I'm going to target your bakery and all this shit. One of those people that did that bakery lawsuit thing, they were actually friends with the that was a sad one, because they were actually all friends. Like, so the Christian baker and the two gay dudes, they were friends. They came in all the time, yada, yada. Yeah. And they targeted her and tried to make her, you know, make them a cake. And she's like, I can't do it. You know, it's just like...
So she supplied them with other cakes. It was a wedding cake. She just
it was a wedding cake. She couldn't do it. Because it went against her belief. You know, and then it's like, oh, you nasty, da-da-da-da. It's like, come on, man. Like, you can't go into the halal store and tell the Muslim guy to make you a ham sandwich and then call him an evil bigot if he won't make you a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich.
Right.
I'm not going to go into a vegan store and call them horrible people because their belief system will not allow them to participate in those are people's convictions.
Right.
And just because my vegan friend will not, like, we've got a vegan friend who would never cook for us. Wouldn't even come to our...
No.
He wouldn't even attend our barbecue.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't even use a pot of ours that had been used with meat.
That's true. That's true. And, he's a Hindu. And his religion calls people that eat meat, he calls them dog eaters.
Yep.
That's what their religion calls us. And he sat across from me and says, look, anybody who eats a cow is evil. Well, that's his religion. He doesn't hate me. It's his religion.
Yeah.
Now, whether he's right or wrong on it is a separate issue, but that's who he is, and I love that dude. I accept him for who he is. Haribo! Like, I get it. I'm not mad at him for that, and it's not a commentary on me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's hypocritical on the other side to try to force people to go against their own conscience.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's
agree.
a difference between a person saying, I love you, I just can't participate in it, versus the idiot at the beginning. I shouldn't say that, but the guy at the beginning who was saying, I'm gonna get it, you're gonna get it, gonna get it, yeah, I'm just gonna get it, I'm just gonna get it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you why, and I'm not gonna, if that guy would preach a sermon on, school loans and how God calls those things an abomination, then I'd say, okay, you're being consistent. But for some reason, the people that preach that way never preach about that stuff, which God calls an abomination. And they never talk about it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that a lot of times, too, it's the way that people say it, too. You know what I mean? Like, kind of what you were saying. Like, are you saying... with the cake lady, is she saying, get the fuck out of here, you blah, 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 you know what I mean? And she's like going at him and calling him all these names. Or was she saying, I'm sorry, I can't bake this cake for you. My religion, I can't support this type of marriage.
Right.
And obviously it seems to me that's what was going on, because she had baked other cakes for them. She did?
Yeah, she did. They were friends.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. And she even said...
It's just not... That's not fair.
She even said, go to, so-and-so and so-and-so, they'll help you.
Yeah.
And it was clearly targeted to go after them.
That's not right.
Now, if a person were to say, well, recently there was this woman, I forgot where she had played the thing where she was like...
She was talking that...
She was against...
To Blake.
She's like, okay, if...
Is that the one?
No. She said, there was one that said, if black people want to come to our town, that's fine, but the race mixing we can't do.
I thought you were talking about the woman that's trying to...
If we went to her bakery and she said, I can't do that because you guys are race mixing and I'm against miscegenation, you know what I'd say? I'd say, okay. And I'd go somewhere else.
Take our money somewhere else.
I didn't believe, I thought it was a mistake for America to force integration.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy when you first said that. But then after you explained it, I was like, yeah.
The way integration worked in the 60s and 70s, I was not a fan of it. To me, if the white restaurant owner won't service you because you're black, then what you do is you make your own restaurant, you make your own black restaurant with burgers and hot dogs on the menu, and you're 13% of the population. And believe me, I've been in back offices with accountants, and if you take a 13% hit on your projections, on your flash, forget about it, like somebody's head is going to roll. And that's how you actually use the free market to make your political statement.
Yep.
I don't think it was right for the government to forcefully integrate anything. It's like, okay, well, we'll build our own restaurant, and then all the black people will skip your restaurant and go 5 miles to my restaurant. And then on top of that, I'll have white allies who will also skip your restaurant to go to my restaurant. Then you'll go out of business, and then we'll go and buy your property. Now we've got 2 restaurants. That's how capitalism works.
As well, because when you look at the type of schooling that you had when you were in Jamaica versus the type of schooling that you got when you were in America, worlds different.
Not even close.
Worlds different. So if you guys would have had your own schools, like
we did have our own schools. We had our own schools before integration. We were doing just fine.
Right. If you guys,
but it's the psychology of black people. We got to be everywhere where white people are, and then they'll accept us or whatever silliness. Like I was completely against government-run integration. I'm obviously not against integration, but I'm against the government enforcing it because it leads to situations like this. So my point is that on the Christian side, we've never ever compromised any message of the Bible.
Right. My
problem with American evangelicals, which is pointed out in the song, he's got his booze and his women. It's the hypocrisy. And, I don't really even believe that Sodom and Gomorrah, the issue was necessarily homosexuality per se, because there's a vast difference between gay marriage and a group of people trying to gang rape somebody. Those are not the same issue.
Right.
But even if we were to concede that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed only because of homosexuality, which biblically it was not.
No, because it also said that they weren't helping the poor.
This was the sin of your sister Sodom. She was well fed. She was full of ease and pride, and she did not help the poor and needy, and they committed an abomination before me, so I destroyed them when I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were multiple. When people talk about sodomites, somebody brought up sodomites on a fireside one time, and I said, yeah, I can't stand sodomy. The not taking care of the poor and the needy, the pride, being overfed. Yeah, we are definitely Sodom. And the guy was like, oh, why are you changing the subject, Vin? Why are you turning it around on me? I said, I didn't turn it around on you, my brother. That's what the Bible actually says. You brought up Sodom, not me. So I think you need to reread your Bible. But so this is obviously somebody who's been hurt by, right-wing, the evangelical version of Christianity, which is completely, for some reason, somebody in a back office got together and said, we're going to go after the gays. We're going to go after the guys. And and so now you got a lot of hurt people, and there's a lot of backlash, you know, and I think that songs like this, unfortunately, because people tied their hatred. I'm not going to say homophobia. These people are not afraid of gays; they just hate them. Which some of the hate might be rooted in fear, sure. Yeah. But there's been a lot of I was in a forum one time and somebody said, what would you say if your kid came out as gay or whatever? And I'd say, you just love them unconditionally like you did the day before. What are you talking about? That's what I would do. So and the thing is, as a Christian parent, your kid is gonna, whether they're gonna come out and be something that's against the Bible, if original sin is true, which it is. Yep. They're gonna come out and do something. Yeah. And so, why are there categories? Well, if my kid does this, I'll love him unconditionally, but if he does that,
forget about it. That's crossing.
A lot of Christian parents will be like, oh, you got a girl pregnant, 16, 17, they'll be fine with it. And then, but as long as you don't have a boy, as long as you don't bring a boyfriend home, it's like, come on, man. Like, these are, we're not told to do that. I told somebody, like, look, I'm not told to change anybody. Right. The Bible doesn't say change your neighbor. You know what it says?
Love them.
It says love your neighbor. Now, if you love your neighbor, you tell them the truth. I'm not saying you compromise. All I'm saying is, it's not my job, and it's not your job to change your neighbor. You ought to love your neighbor. And God, for God's sake, if you can't love your own kid, I
can't even imagine rejecting my kid for something.
Even God himself assumes that you love your kid. So it's like, love your neighbor as yourself. The assumption is you're gonna love your kid if you're gonna love your neighbor, but you can't find in your heart to love your kid, man, like unconditionally. Anyway, so then they're going off and doing all this stuff in the church and all that, banging in the Lord's backyard, and that's the big tragedy of it, is obviously as Christians. The tragedy for us is that, it's like, hey man, because we have evangelicals have hitched their hatred and fear of gay people to the Bible, now the animosity goes from us to God, which I think is the major tragedy aside from the horrible, and it changes you when you actually meet people and talk to them. I was sitting down with one of my friends and he was telling me, he was actually my boss back in the day, and he was telling me how he had tried not to be gay, and he actually went to one of those camps and all that shit. Oh, really? And he just decided he couldn't do it, and so he was in his car and he did the carbon monoxide thing.
Gosh.
Tried to kill himself. It was his friend. She caught him. He was about 3 minutes out.
Oh
so,
my gosh.
Like, So it's a real tragedy for me, because obviously as a Christian,
that's a recording of y'all singing. It's on the phone. It's cute, right?
Terrified.
It's terrifying.
keep that in there.
Yeah. That's our 10-year-old.
Yeah. So it's just a tragedy, I think. And I trust that God met with the hundreds, maybe thousands and hundreds of thousands of kids who, killed themselves because of the rejection of their parents. Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah, and it's funny because when you picture like a story inside you picture it like when you're hearing it, and like I just was like this person, like what they were trying to explain in it was basically, to me, it was coming across as like, well, F you to my dad and F you to God because I'm going to do this God's original way. And, people always say it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Yeah. You know what I mean? So then he like brings that into it. And like, I feel like the person that would do this would feel like that they were saying F you to God and would feel that God was looking at them and hating, you know what I mean, and being like, I can't believe you're doing this on my property and stuff like that. But I actually felt like that instead the Lord would be looking at it and it would make his heart sad because the person misunderstood him to that degree.
Right. Because
of the things that they had been told and been taught.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But, I think that, a lot of Christians, we judge the outside of something. Now, granted, a Christian would say, yes, look, this is what is happening from the outside. I get it. But what's underneath it?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you really honestly believe? Now, like I said, there are some militant LGBT people out there for sure. Mm-hmm. There's some fascistic, militant,
yep.
But for the vast majority of folks in that community are not militant.
Yeah.
But they also, now we've progressed as a culture to where they don't have to run around and hide themselves.
Yep.
And, biblically speaking, we're not supposed to encourage that. We're not supposed to encourage people to hide and pretend and BS and act like they're whatever. Yep. We're not supposed to encourage that. So, shout out to all our LGBT friends. Shout out to all the the restaurant owners who've lost their living, due to their again, these are really, really complex issues, but it's Vin and Sori. We're not going to shy away from nothing.
And the other thing too is, if we were actually like loving our neighbor, caring for the other person, you would realize that there's an element in which they're the same. So the person that wants to go against, like, even though like we have, I would say, progressed, but I don't know if that's the exact word I'm looking for. We've really changed in our views of like homosexuality and stuff like that in America. Like before, like it would be just like really, really bad. Now people are kind of accepting it more and things are changing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for somebody to stand up and say, hey, I'm marrying this person that's the same sex as me, they have to make a stand, and it can be a very, very difficult thing to stand up to their family or to stand up at their job or to stand up at all these different things, but they're standing by how they feel. Yeah. And so whatever sacrifices that they have to make, they're doing it because they can't they can't sacrifice their own conscience or who they feel like that they are. And so you have to say, well, we can appreciate that from you, but can you appreciate that also from the shop owner who's saying, okay, I can't let go of my beliefs either, no matter what that means to me.
Right.
So the shop owner has to make sacrifices.
Right.
Because the shop owner is making a sacrifice. That was a sale to the shop owner.
Right.
And that was a potential customer that could bring more customers.
Right.
But now I don't know if they ended up losing the business. I don't remember. I felt like it was lost. It didn't.
A couple of them lost life savings, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
So I'm saying, like, if we can just look and see that everybody is making sacrifices so that way they can be who they want to be, and then stop trying to make other people like you. Like, if somebody's wrong.
Well, what's amazing is that it's the imposition. People say you can't legislate morality. I always laugh at that. Like, what do you mean you can't legislate morality?
I do it all the time.
It's just a question of which morality are we going to legislate, and to what degree are we going to impose X or Y thing on a person.
Right.
You cannot impose evangelical sexual mores to a degree. Because I think whether you're evangelical or not, we go, hey, if you're predisposed to hurting kids, we don't care. We're going to impose that on you.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is not as simplistic as everybody thinks it is. Like, there's some things that we find are immoral that we say people should be able to do it. And there are other things where we go, that's too deleterious to the public good for it not to be. And so I don't, like I said, I don't believe in the government telling people what to do with their business. And I think that, you know, it's one of the few redeemable aspects of capitalism where it's like you can really, really fight back with your wallet. And so, you know, I'd say, okay, fine, let them have their thing, and then you go and create a black shop and get a bunch of allies, and they'll lose 13 to 20% of their revenue, and they'll either capitulate and get a revelation, or they'll shut down. It's that simple. But anyway, good song in the sense of it's provocative enough to where, you know, I think a lot of evangelicals are not going to give it a chance. And I think this type of song is what a lot of evangelicals actually want to see. Because they go, see, this is how they are.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But they're bringing it to an extreme point of offense to make a point. And, you know, they're kind of like, oh, we're carny metal and all that, and, you know, we don't take ourselves seriously. Well, I agreed to a degree.
Yeah.
Because they were definitely saying something here, especially playing that clip at the beginning. That was like at the height. That was like I think 2 years before the Obergefell decision. So they were definitely saying something in this song. I thought they did a good job at it. What do you get the song?
It's a 9, I think. This one was way better.
Yeah, this is way better. The production was way better. It was much better. It's a 9, and you know, I'm sure we're gonna get a bunch of emails from our
no doubt.
From our Christian friends, and look.
But it's the same theme again. Like, everybody makes sacrifices to stick beside their convictions.
Yeah.
Our conviction is that community has been treated very terribly by the church, and not every church has been that way. I mean, I've seen, you know, some Christians went to basically a gay pride parade, and they were holding up signs like apologizing for the way that the church has been, or something like that. So like, not all churches and not all Christians have been that way, but there has been enough of them where it's like
the overarching message that LGBT people have gotten from evangelicals has been horrible.
Right.
It's been absolutely horrible. So, you know, so I think it was an important message. And Christians, look, I take criticism from Christians very seriously, and so when they do it, when they criticize us, I always respond, and I always pray and think about what I'm going to say. But I will say, for people who love to pile on people, there is a specific situation I'm talking about where somebody went after Sori, and I shot a video. It was like a 2-second, 22-minute video, and I said, hey. Just show me in the Bible where that's the case. The dude had a giant meltdown. His wife went out. His wife was like, you bullied my husband, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what are you talking about, lady? What are you talking about? Well, it turned out that she hadn't seen what I actually said, and she hadn't seen what he said to you.
Right.
So all I'm saying, evangelicals, is that, you know, if you're gonna dish it out, you got to be able to take it. And we've been dishing it out to these people who make up 1 to 3% of our population, who've been vastly outnumbered for decades. Yeah. And now they're fighting back. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's right. All I'm saying is, I understand.
And the other thing too is like spending so much time going after such a small percentage of the population.
It's ridiculous.
It's kind of like, wait, why are you doing that?
That tells me exactly everything I need to know.
Shouldn't we be going after the major issues that are shared by the many rather than going to the small percentage?
We got millions of 18, 19-year-old kids that are getting destroyed. Their literal lives are being destroyed by an act that God says is an abomination, which is excessive usury. He explicitly calls that an abomination and says in Ezekiel that is one of the reasons that he's going to destroy the nation of Israel. Not caring for the needy and the poor. You got people dying over insulin. Right. But you want to go after 3% of the population, and you want us to send all those people to hell.
We're not doing that.
I'm not doing that. One, because I'm not God, and two, because I don't believe that that's how it works. And neither do you. That's why you believe that Mr. Trump, Mr. Grab him by the drunk Trump, you believe that he's a Christian. Many of you believe that Mr. Bush, who killed a whole bunch of innocent Iraqi civilians, you got enough grace in your heart for Mr. Bush. So all I'm saying is, how about we have some grace in our heart for them? That's all. And what I'm saying is, we're going to live or die with them. Because if God doesn't have grace for them, then we're fucked. Literally. So.
There you have it.
There you go. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. Illuminati confirmed.
Right down the road.